Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. This is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. This is Power Book 2 Ghost Love and War Season 2 Episode 10. Y'all. Y'all. Oh my God. Like, I don't even know what to say about this freaking episode right now. Y'all, first of all, I'm so mad what they did with the character Mecca. And I think once we found out he was a snitch, we already knew that was a wrap. My guesses of who was going to go was either Mecca and Zeke or Mecca and Everett. Maybe even Mecca and Lorenzo, because when it came to Monet, I just felt like, she was going to do what's best for her interest at, any point. And her convenience and stuff like that. And I figured she probably wanted to be in power and that it was all a setup. And I pretty much expected Mecca, especially the way they built his character up, not to be that stupid and not to, be easy to fall for it. I always felt like if anybody was going to kill him, I think I said it in one of my previous videos, that it would be Monet. I felt like she was the only one that could get close to him in that way. Then when we found out he was a snitch, it was like the only other way I could see it going down is if some kind of way one of those other people that he snitched on, their organizations or something like that, found out about it and they came after him, especially with him not, supposed to even be in the States. And I just didn't want him to go out easy or, being stupid or whatever the case may be in an unbelievable way, especially the way that they built him up. I kind of felt like that was just a waste of a character, and it just disappointed me so much between him and Chef. Okay, I can't lie. I think I probably said that before, but I gotta throw that in there too. So that was basically what I went into the episode thinking, and there was so many leaks that was coming out, and those leaks annoy me. I'll be trying to stay away from them. I usually don't even watch the trailer because I just want everything to be fresh in my mind. I don't watch nobody reviews until after I do mine. I don't like to know what's going to happen. I don't mind you put out one trailer, maybe even two. But then when it goes beyond that, it starts to annoy me because it's like, well, damn, I don't even need to watch the episode. Yeah, I done put all of them out. So I was trying to avoid them like crazy. But anyway, having said that, y'all, we basically started out the episode, with what we seen in the preview and what we saw coming, for the next episode. With him and Monet on the boat. He's coming, he's giving her this necklace that he's bought. He's telling her about how he had to leave and he had to do this and do that. But now he basically came back there for her. He wants to, take her away. Basically still singing the same old song. And she kind of looking at him like he got 3 damn heads. And then she was like, listen, you was down last night. Why it seemed like you backing out now? And he was like, no, I'm not backing out. I'm just saying we got to be careful. What's our cover? What's our moves? Did we establish King Alibi at my penthouse? Everything's got to be perfect. No one could suspect either one of us. And so I'm like, okay, I could hear him on that or whatever. And then she's saying Kane does whatever she says. And he's like, like you had him working for me, so you tricked him to working for me or whatever. And she's basically, again, just like, you're right. Which that wasn't right because she didn't even know who the hell you was. And she was like, well, Kane should kill, Lorenzo. I'll tell him myself. And so he's like, okay. And so he was like, I'm going to tell the captain, that I'm ready. And she's like, okay. And she just looking at him in disgust as he walks away. Monet and her looks. And so you got Tariq on the phone trying to check on Lauren. He's not getting no answer. Every time he's calling, it's going straight to voicemail. You got Effie behind still laying there in the damn bed. And he's like, shit, where are you? And so Effie's waking up and talking about who you calling. I'm sorry. I do not like her. I know there's a lot of people that seem Effie, but I'm so turned off with this shit. And she was like, oh, well, you don't gotta, not leave a message because I'm here if you calling some chick. And he like, oh, please stop it. He was like, I gotta get out of here early. I gotta go see Davis in court. And he basically ends up telling her that I'm just trying to see if Lauren made it out of town safe. And she's like, I'm sure you don't have to worry. Yeah, okay, Effie. And he was like, I mean, she's not answering none of my calls, texts, nothing. And she's saying that she probably ditched the phone. And he was like, yeah, but I'm still worried though. He was like, Tay held it down, yes, but I never know what's coming next. And he basically ends up, saying to her that as far as Yaz and her adoption, about the whole thing of it being permanent and them changing her name and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, if he should go away and if this adoption is gonna be final, then he needs her to basically promise him that she would look out for Yaz and hold her down and all of that. And she's like, oh, you trust me to do that? And Tariq gonna talk about something. You the only one I trust besides my mother. And I'm just looking at the TV like, oh, okay. So anyways, Tariq gets to court and they're telling him that Jenny, basically has Tate coming in. I mean, Jenny's whole thing with Tate was bogus, but they got Trace Weston coming in. And Tariq is like, what? And they like, yeah. And he was like, tell me now what Trace knows. And so, basically, Tariq is like Kane. He was like, Kane gave Brayden some pills to say Trace stole them. Kane found out and took both of them in the hood to scare them. And Ramirez basically is the one that came. So Sax, of course, is like, how you ain't tell us this? And he's like, do you have an alibi? And basically he says, yeah, Riley, which is Sax's niece. And so Sax is saying there's no way that he'll bring her into it and that his sister's still not speaking to him. And he was like, look, Davis, all he cares about is winning the case. He was like, she's at play. If we need her to defend the client, so be it. I don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? I'll get at you, her, or whoever I got to get at. And so Sax basically walks off. Then, he said, Davis is basically telling him, if Trace and Kane names come up in court, you already know what'll happen. We both know. And so, Tariq is basically saying, yeah. He said, how long have you known? And so, Davis says, I gotta go talk to Sax, and he walks away. And of course now, Tariq is looking funny because he didn't know that Davis knew about the situation, right? And so then Tariq gets a call. Well, rather, he's trying to call Brayden, but he's just getting the answering service. And, he walks away. So then we got Mecca basically talking to Zeke, showing him around the hangar, showing him all the cars. And he basically like, oh, shoot, you got a jet too. And, he's smiling. And basically, Mecca's like, well, speaking of jets, are you thinking about going with us? Like, you more than welcome to. You dropped out of stands where you might as well, come on. And Zeke is saying, listen, I know where I stand. I don't want to be bothered. He was like, I don't want nothing to do with Monet. And if you trust her, then I don't think I want to be bothered with you. And so he was like, listen, I never lied to you. And she was like, well, she told me that she didn't go around Carrie or whatever. And Mecca gonna talk about some, oh, well, sometimes when you think that people are lying, it's not really a lie and it's unconditional lie. I'm like, Mecca, what are you talking about? Stop it. Cut it out. And maybe you should have been listening to Zeke. At that point, Zeke was smarter than you because he said you shouldn't be trusting Monet. But anyway, he gives him the keys to the car. And he tells him that it's his. And, Zeke is all smiling like, for real? He like, oh, thanks. And he was like, and the seat on the plane is open to you if you wanted to. So, basically, Zeke walks off. Mecca walks off and Zeke is just standing there smiling. Then we have Monet standing talking to Kane about killing, his father. She was like, I said that. He tells her I said that shit, because I needed to when we was in front of Mecca. And she was like, look, I lied to save your ass, And she was like, we gotta do this. We have to make it look real. We gotta do it right. Because if not, Mecca will, get us. And he was like, Ma, you want me to do some crazy shit like kill my own father? And she was like, well, why not? She was like, all you've been doing is scraping and scheming since he got out of jail. He don't have you in charge. He hasn't put you, ahead of nothing. You ain't running the business. And he talking about, oh, I got his name. She was like, that's even more of a reason. She was like, he tried to shut us down and we could barely feed ourselves. Don't forget he got the prison guards to beat you up. So I was like, well, damn, Monet at first. So she was like, you got that Jesus piece for him and he still don't respect you. And he was like, Ma, that's my father, like what part you don't understand. And so she was like, look, if it was any other guy in the street, you would have to do what you have to do. You would have been put his ass in the ground. And so she was like, your father shot at me. And then he like, what? And she was like, you gonna stand for that, So it's him or me, Kane, you gotta choose. And so basically, Kane is like, I do this shit and Drew and Diana will never forgive me. And she basically says she'll take care of Drew and Diana. Don't worry about them. I don't know how the hell, that's supposed to be. And then she goes and gives him a gun and she's telling him it's clean. So she basically was like, damn, where's Tariq when I need him? And he was like, you don't need no damn Tariq. Why the hell you always gotta bring up, Tariq? What the hell he's supposed to do for you or whatever? And she was like, well, maybe he could help you because he knows about this or whatever. She was like, look, he killed his own father before. And he said, you gonna tell me that little P-U-S-S-Y killed his father? And she like, yep, he sure did. So all of a sudden, Kane gonna talk about some, alright, I got it, I can do this. I said, you are so freaking petty, Kane. It don't make no damn sense. So because Tariq killed his father, all of a sudden that gave you the courage to say you want to kill yours? Really? You can't make it up with Kane. I swear you can't. So, they're in court and Jenny is telling them, the judge and everybody, that Robert Trace Weston III, was added to the list, but unfortunately this morning he became ill. And now since his testimony is, important and they can't delay any further, she still has, somebody to come in. And so Davis is like, you can't just be subbing the damn roster. And the judge was like, look, we delayed it long enough. I'm going to let it go, but I'm going to let it go with a stern warning. So, of course, we have Brayden coming walking in, and him and Tariq just looking at each other, and he like, what? When they call his name or whatever the case may be. And, of course, they got to make it all dramatic and have him come in slow motion, and they looking at him or whatever, and he looking at Tariq. So, I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. Okay, let's see what Brayden gonna do. So, Brayden gets on the stand, and, as he's walking to it, Tariq is getting flashes and memories of the conversations they had about him sitting here pouring his heart out and telling him stuff that he didn't even necessarily know, plus the stuff that he do know. And they basically start swearing him in on whatever the case may be, and he says he, is going to tell the truth and the whole truth. And so Jenny starts sitting him down saying, are you familiar with the defendant? He like, yeah, we friends. And he was like, we met at Choke. And so basically they was like, oh, do you recall why he transferred? And he was like, yeah, the dean found the stash in the room or whatever the case may be. And so he was like, students were selling drugs. And she was like, just like in Professor Reynolds' novel. And so she was like, it also appears that something was assigned with Ezekiel Cross or whatever. So he was like, well, we had an extra... No, he moved from Ezekiel Cross room. That's right, because he was there tutoring him at first. So Brayden is telling her, like, well, we had an extra room in my dorm room, so I told him that he could come over to me. And he was like, that's why I know that he didn't kill nobody, because he basically was staying with me at the time. So now at this point, Jenny getting mad. She talking about Your Honor. And then he was like, just keep the answers to a minimum. And then Brayden tells him, I apologize, Your Honor, but I just want her to know that I was the one that was dealing the drugs at your and at Stanfield. So at this point, David starts smiling. And she's objecting. And he was like, Your Honor, it's our witness. So he was like, one more misstep and me and you gonna have a problem. Basically that's what the judge tells Brayden. And so she was like, permission to treat the witness as hostile. And he was like, yeah, go ahead. And so she was like, if you're the one that was selling drugs, do you have proof? And he was like, yeah, my proof is course correct. It's an app that I built. It was designed for tutoring, but it was just a front for the drugs. And she was like, well, how do we know that you're the one behind the app and not Tariq? And so, and that you're not just trying to cover for him. So Brayden pulls the freaking paper out. He was like, here's the paperwork from Stern Enterprises, and I'm the president, of course, correct. I was like, I know that's right, Brayden. All right, now come through. So basically she was like, may I approach, Your Honor? And Davis is like, us too. And so they basically both walk up and, he looking at it. He snatches the papers out her hands and gives it to the judge and was like, yeah, right there. And so basically, he says, Miss Sullivan has failed to move this case forward. She has built her entire case on motive, and obviously there's no motive. This is skewed, with concrete evidence. And he says he's the campus dealer, so I moved to dismiss. And she was like, I don't have to prove motive, Your Honor. He was like, that's true. Do you think that you're gonna have a conviction with this jury? So then she's looking at the jury, and basically they all staring, and Davis got the big smile on his face. Tariq got a smile on his face at this point. And then she basically was like, could you move to dismiss without prejudice, Your Honor, and allow me to represent new evidence later. And he was like, well, double jeopardy. And he's like, you're right, Your Honor. And he says, well, the case is dismissed. He says the jury can be excused. And Tariq is like, what? So Tariq got off with that one, thanks to Brayden, okay? Which I think most of us knew that was going to happen anyway. And then him and Brayden are smiling at each other. And his father, of course, is pissed the hell off. And he's like, I can't believe that you did that. So, when they go, first they trying to ask questions, and Brayden lawyer saying my client has no comment. And so Davis says, we did it, kid. You're free to go. And basically they take the ankle monitor off of Tariq, right there and then. And him and Davis go back and talk. And Tariq is telling him, okay, now that this case was dismissed, I definitely need to get to my sister. You also have Sax trying to go over and talk to Jenny. And she's basically like, nope, because he was like about to say I was thinking, and she cuts him off and walks away. But in the meantime, Davis was giving Tariq like a shout and a toast and saying to be in prison free. And he was like, well, once I get Yaz out of custody, I'm out. And he was like, Tariq, since day one, you've been in stuff. He was like, you need to get yourself together first, get a fresh start, my friend, And then in a few years, flush with cash, you could go ahead and do whatever you want to do at that point. You would be done with Stanford, and you could focus on your sister then. And, Tariq's like, nah, I ain't doing that. That's the shit my father would do. I ain't built like that. He always want to talk mess. And he was like, since I can't speak to my mother and I can't, have her come in and help, I need to be able to get to Yaz. And so he was like, look, I know Jenny Sullivan is not going to stop, and if she even picks up Kane, it still falls back on us. And so, Tariq is like, to be honest, you owe me a refund. And Davis is like, look, are you bugging? He was like, excuse me? He was like, yeah, because Brayden got the charges dropped, not you. And then he was like, you ain't supposed to be double dipping, and basically was trying to threaten, like, if he could report it. And so Davis was just like, yeah, okay. And he was like, you knew about all of this and you ain't say shit. And he was like, look, Davis told him I was protecting you, and I still am. He was like, even if you go to the bar committee and file your little complaint about a conflict of interest, then you would have to admit about you and Kane, and you both would be guilty in order to make it stick. So, how that's gonna work, And he said, we both know you ain't gonna do that, killer, so I keep my money, alright? And you gonna hustle. And he was like, the Tahitas ain't just gonna let you go. And so as soon as he's saying that, he basically is getting a text from Monet saying she needs help. And I find it interesting because I noticed that in the description of the episode, it said Tariq refuses to give up on loved ones, and Tariq must help Monet save her family. And I'm thinking in my head, like, how many times is Tariq gonna save these people and Monet and her damn family? He has came through for them so many times, and it's like, what do they do for them? Drew and Diana came and stole from him. Kane always trying to set him up and do some backhanded shit to him. Freaking the head Lorenzo was talking about we raised you better than that, when he found out Diana was messing with him. So it's just real interesting to me that y'all always seem to be calling Tariq for help. But nonetheless, when Tariq walks out, basically Davis gets on the phone and calling damn Kane. So I was like, you know what? So anyway, Jenny comes in and Sax is sitting there at the bar, and he's like, "Oh, how did you know where to find me?" She was like, "Oh, this is where you used to always go in the past when things would go down or whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, that's true." And basically, she ends up telling him that Lauren is dead, y'all. Okay, so for those that was like, "I don't know, maybe she didn't do it, maybe she hit her somewhere," no, she's dead. Okay, DEAD. And of course they trying to say that it was a car accident. And I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden this girl know how to set up a damn car accident. Monet knew how to supposedly make this chick hang herself. And now Effie know how to make it into a car accident. Okay, whatever. And so, basically he's like, how do you know? Maybe it really was an accident if it wasn't no proof and nobody got shot. And it's, definitely could be that, Carrie had hung herself or whatever the case may be, because I know that I was almost at that point at one time, and she's like, what are you talking about? And he basically tells her that after him trying to frame, ghosts and all of that different kind of stuff, he had got to a low point and he had pulled the gun out and somebody had stopped him, and she like, oh my God, I had no idea. So he was saying that that's very well possible, and he basically was telling her not to blame herself, and that if there's no proof, and Tariq had the ankle monitor on him and all of that, and was he anywhere that he wasn't supposed to be? Did they pick up anything on him? She basically was like, no. And so he was telling her that, there's not really nothing she could do about that, and that's not her fault. And so then you have Monet meeting up with Tariq, like I said, telling him that she needs help. And of course he tells her about the bag and about the fact that he found out that Mecca's a snitch. So now she's even more like, oh hell no, he gotta go, he's a damn snitch, out of here, off with his head even more now. And she's telling him that they need to come up with this plan, and they need to make Kane think that he really is going there to kill his father, but he's not, and they need to set Mecca up and get rid of him. And Tariq is like, okay, I'm down, no problem, I'll help y'all. The only thing that I ask is that I made a deal with him for $2 million or whatever the case may be, with my with the bag that I have of his. I hid it somewhere safe, and he got a tracker on me and all of that kind of stuff. And so I just want to get that money that he promised me, and then you could do whatever you want to do with it. And so she's like, okay, cool. And if he wants to be gone after that, then she will let him go. Okay. So that's supposed to be the plan. So then you have Monet, go talk to Lorenzo. And the guys in there is all looking funny. And she says something about like, are we talking about all our business out in the open? So she puts Lorenzo up to speed on the fact, that Mecca was setting all of this up. He had all these different papers on all of them. He was watching all of them. Mecca and Dante is one and the same. At first he's like, nah, you lying. And she's like, no, I'm not. Basically letting him know everything. And she was like, we got Tariq help. Kane got his position. He gonna play. We gonna need Drew and Diana in on this too. If anything get messed up, he could kill all of y'all. He could kill my kids. Do you really think that I would let my kids be in danger, or that I would put them in danger? And he's like, hell no, of course not. She was like, all right. So in the meantime, he's basically like, well, I need to kill Mecca. And she's like, no, I'm going to do it. And they like sitting there arguing about that for a minute. And she's like, listen, nobody got time for this. You know what I'm saying? You got to let me do it. If you try to even run up on him, it's going to blow back on you. You wouldn't be able to get close to him the way that I would, which is true. That's what I've been saying from the beginning. Nobody else would not be able to get close to him and get in the position that he would be able to get in. And she's basically telling him, that they're going to be using Tariq, and he want to be like, oh, because at first he was like, bullshit that she was even saying that Mecca was Dante and all that. He's like, oh, he's the connect. And then he was like, well, what's going to keep him from killing, my son? And he was like, oh, well, I called Kane the other day and he was saying he couldn't come home. And she's like, yeah, because he's been holding him the hell down. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And she was like, he's not going to do whatever, and let him go and make certain moves unless he basically sees me. And so, of course, when she's saying that she want to use Tariq, he got such an attitude with that. She telling him the whole family is in danger. And my whole thing is like, why do Lorenzo got so much against Tariq? Like, I'm not getting it. Tariq has helped you, like I said, more than your damn kids have. They all basically made messes of things in different situations, except for maybe Drew. So I don't get where this, is always a beef with Tariq. And she was like, basically telling him Tariq has a plan. And he was like, oh, well, you got it all figured out, huh? He was like, no, I'm the one that got to put the bullet in Mecca head. And like I said, I got to protect my family. I guess the macho man thing or whatever. And she was like, in this case, you can't protect them. I got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Which I agree with her. And so then he goes and he's telling Diana and the plan. And here go Diana. Trust Monet. You're going to be on Monet's side after this. And so Drew was saying if Monet wanted Poppy dead, he would have already been dead. And she's like, yeah, well. And he was like, look, this is to save Kane and this is to save all of y'all. At the end of the day, she talking about some, and Tariq and how we going to do this and this and that, trying to cut him off. And he was like, at the end of the day, his family always first, period. Remember that. And so, of course, that's when we see the part that he was saying to Drew in the commercial where he's like, so what's up? You down with this? You ready for this or what? And Drew says he's in, and then Diana gonna say she in. And to be honest, I feel like they should have left her ass home. I'm getting kind of tired of Diana now, and I really used to like her. Then we had Tariq come home, back to the dorm room, and Brayden is telling him about the missing stuff. And he's like saying, what are you talking about? And then he's like, well, what's going on with you going? And Brayden tells him that his father's basically pulling him out of school. He's going to be sitting in a cubicle, at some hedge fund or whatever the case may be because of what happened. And he was like, look, of course Coretta is dead, but we still got other things we could do. We could be good. And so, of course, Tariq was like, did you use the card to open the lockers or whatever? And he was like, yeah, the last 2 times. And so, of course, he puts 2 and 2 together. And he basically like, that damn Diana, she was here a couple of days ago, the other day, and she swiped my code. And he was like, wow. And so, Brayden talking about, yo, Diana's a pro or whatever. So he was like, well, anyway, I can't repay you for what I did. Tariq is telling Brayden that. He was like, I really appreciate it. You held it down. And he was, Tariq is basically saying that he's out of this. He's not going to be doing it no more. Brayden, of course, is telling him, nah, don't say that, whatever have you. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I really got to put Yaz first, and I got to, do what I got to do. And so he was like, we just can't let Kane find out. And then he was like, how did it go with Lauren? Brayden going to come about, oh, yeah, she just drove off on her own. And he's basically telling him that he told her no phone. He told her to lay low. And he was like, she probably dips the phone. She's smart. She'll be fine. When we all know that damn Lauren is not no street smart person. But anyway, right after they finished talking about that, here come Kane walking the door talking about y'all still don't lock the door. And I have to agree with him. Y'all stupid after everything that went down. Y'all still keep the damn door open. And so he comes in and he's like saying, oh, Tariq, you free now. When I heard Casper kept it 10 toes down, and he was like, you took care of everything. And Brayden basically says, yeah, he took care of everything. And then Brayden was trying to get the hell up out of there. Like, I'll catch you later. They do their little handshake, and then Kane gonna talk about cute or whatever the case may be. And so Tariq was like telling him, I know why you here. I know Monet sent your ass here. He's basically saying that he forward the number so that any calls that Dante, get, it would go to his other phone, and that basically when he looks out the tracking, it would just look like he's there at the school. And he was like, okay, so we got to basically get down and handle this business or whatever the case may be. Are you ready for it? And he was saying, well, Kane asked him, what if Mecca comes for you? He was like, well, Monet, I handle that. And so he was asking Kane, you ready to do this? And he was like, kill Lorenzo? Yeah, I am. And so Tariq was like, man, stop trying to act like you hard. Stop trying to act like you know what time it is, because I know you don't. He was like, I killed my father to save my family. Okay, Tariq, whatever. But anyway, she was like, Drew, Monet, Diana, you know what I'm saying? They all could be in trouble. Mecca could go after all of them if you don't kill Lorenzo. You know what I'm saying? And you got to be able to do this, and you got to look him right in his eye that, this the type of guy he is. He don't play no games, and you already know that. You don't have a choice. Just like I didn't have a choice with my father, so you got to do what you got to do, and you got to be ready for this. And he was like, after this, you never going to be the same. So, you could kiss that goodbye. And he basically walks away, and then Kane is just standing there like, yeah. Because you always want to say Tariq is soft and talk bull crap, but he done did more than you, Kane, okay? Then we had Zeke coming in the damn police station asking Detective Stalker if he's sure that Carrie's death was a suicide. And he's like, well, you're the one that found her, and basically the coroner confirmed it, so yeah, what else would it be? And he's like, I don't know, I was just double checking, I just wanted to make sure, and he leaves. So I'm like, oh Lord, Zeke, you gonna have him pulling up stuff again, because he was already Mr. Stalker that don't like to let stuff go. And so then we had excuse me, we had the detective, the head of the DNC meeting with Sweeney, showing him the blackface picture. He's like, where did you get this? This was in college and da 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 da. So of course here come Tate sitting down, and he like, hey, guilty as charged. And so he gonna talk about some, okay, Steven, this is getting out of hand. You ain't gotta go all crazy with the Black Lives Matter. And so Tate is basically like, if that headline goes viral, you gonna be in some deep mess. He was like, to avoid all of that in the headlines, you need to control the narrative. You need to step down, do a press conference. I don't know, your family member got cancer or something like that. You found God, whatever excuse you want to use, and endorse Rashad as your replacement. And you had to, say you had a good run. So he was like, my record is spotless. Y'all can't do this to me. He was like, I survived the Me Too shit. He was like, I could easily have all of this come out and be able to step back in the limelight, after 6 months or whatever. And as he was starting to talk and say stuff, Tate was like, what, N-word? That's what you was going to say? Like, that's the only thing that's left for you to say at this point. And so he was like, either it could blow over in 6 months, or in 6 months, I could perhaps, have you with much needed time off, and then you could decide to run for Senate. And with the backing of a solid freshman congressman, of course, our mutual friend here. And so, the head of the DNC, Steven, he's like, that's right. He was like, shit, maybe you could even become the director of her. Shit, if Ben Carson could do it. And he was like, what do you say, my boy Rick? And so, of course, he ain't trying to hear it. He like, F you, Rashad, or whatever the case may be. And then he looks at, the head of the DNC, and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? He ain't want to say yeah to Tate, but either way, he knew he was backed against the wall. So basically, he's like, good luck with him, Steven. You gonna need it. And he probably right about that, because Tate is a damn mess. And Tate just sitting there cheesing on back with the glass in his hand. So then you got Mecca basically talking to Kane and saying, that he needs Lorenzo dead. Is he sure he ready for it? He's like, once Lorenzo was dead, then he would be able to start fresh with Kane. This is an opportunity to show him what he's made of. He's getting a small shipment in tomorrow night, and he could do it then. He'll never see it coming. He's basically like, if you want the top spot, this is the way for you to get it, and this is the way for you to show me that you're ready. And so Kane is like, so all I gotta do is kill my father, and he was like, you lied to me. You didn't even tell me. You much more than just the damn connect. You damn Zeke's father. And he was like, well, that ain't changed nothing in that regard, and neither is my offer to you, or whatever the case may be. And he was like, so I'll do this business for you in New York. And then Mecca like, what? You don't sound convinced. All of a sudden, you don't believe me? He was like, I wish I could prove it to you, but the proof is in the bag that Tariq got. And he's holding that for ransom. So, of course, as usual, here go Kane. Well, why don't we just dead Tariq then? I know all his hiding spots. And then he talking about some, listen, right now we can't do that. We got to do this first. And then I got eyes on Tariq in the bag. And either way you right, we could go ahead, because Tariq overstayed his welcome too. So here come Monet walking in talking about, what y'all talking about? And she was like, he asked her, did she speak to Zeke? She was like, Zeke is not coming. And I spoke to Lorenzo. Drew and Diana's not coming either, so it would just be us. And she was like, well, give him time. He could always reconsider, and he could always meet us later, or whatever the case may be, just trying to be him, in the head or whatever. And he's like, okay. Then he looks on the tracker, of course. It looks like Tariq is there at the school. He calls him. Tariq answers. And he's like, oh, you there at the school? And Tariq is basically like, yeah. But of course he's not. And then he hangs up. So then we have the lawyer meeting with Tariq. He says the estate lawyer, whatever. He says the the adoption for Yaz is stopped. He hopes he knows what he's doing is going to be put back in his hands now, reverting back to her, his custody reverting back to him or whatever. And he's like, good luck. I hope you know what's best for her. And so then Sax walks up and Tariq is like, what the hell is going on here? And he was like, I'm sorry, but he asked me to be able to meet you here too. And so basically, Tariq is like, what the hell? What do you want now? Like, what's the problem or whatever? What are you approaching me for? And Sax tells him about Lauren, and he can tell that Tariq don't know that he's very shocked about it. And he was like, what? Why you came and told me? Because you thought I had something to do with it? And he was like, well, I'm not going to lie. For a minute there I did. But now I see that you don't. And he was basically like, do you know who could have possibly did this? They say it was a car accident, but do you believe that it was a car accident? Basically asking if Kane and them is involved. And of course Tariq just walks off pissed off. Then he goes, to Davis, and he basically asks to speak to, him for a minute or whatever. And when they're alone, he tells Davis about Lauren, and he's trying to put the blame of, Carrie killing herself as well as the Lauren situation on Davis. And Davis is like, if you don't get your head out there your ass, he basically told him, we're the same. We both have done our dirt, just like you tried to set up ghosts or whatever the case may be. Don't act like you on this high and mighty, horse with me. And he was like, I had nothing to do with that. And listen, I was with her. I cared about her. Because Sax was basically like, oh, so now you're going to pretend like you cared even the way that you butchered her on the stand. And he was like, especially with the way that I butchered her on the stand. And he was like, anyway, what happened with that case that I gave you? And so basically Sax was saying that he could definitely tell, which that's his brother case, that he was wanting him to work on. And he could tell he's innocent, that somebody else did it, and somebody dropped the ball and they basically was trying to set him up with it. So he was like, well, that's what your number one priority is. I need you to focus on that. Then we have Tariq again talking to Effie about damn Lauren and basically telling her what happened and of course blaming himself. And she's all of course saying, no, it's not your fault. It was a car accident. You had no control. Basically beating him in his head, telling him he's not alone. He still got her. He still got Lauren. All that kind of stuff. Then we see Tasha chilling in the cabin. She's sitting there drinking some damn tea, looking like she's doing some type of schoolwork or something. And they knocking at the door, and she hurry up and bend down and is texting or whatever. And they telling her to grab a bag and go. And she pulls a gun out or whatever have you. And then I guess she recognized, I can't even think of her name now, but y'all know who I'm talking about, damn lawyer. I guess she recognized her voice. She knocking at the door. So when she comes to the door, they basically brung, Yaz to her. So that was a good moment. I was happy to see that. I'm glad she ended up with her instead of damn Tariq as, I don't think he could handle it with everything that he got going on. But I am glad she wasn't adopted. And I was like, at least that's something good that happened in the episode. Then we also seen that Tariq and Sax was actually sitting there watching the whole time. And that Tariq had asked Sax about Dante Spears. And he was like, yeah, I do know him. How the heck you know about him? And where did you hear that name from? And he basically was mentioning the Lobos thing as well. Then we had Drew meeting up with Tariq. And he's saying, I got this bag. So now what we supposed to do with this was supposed to be the plan. And Tariq basically was like, okay, you ever play 3-Card Monty? And he's like, yeah, basically Kane used to always trick him and beat him at it. And he was saying that it's the same concept. It's an identical bag. That they're going to bring the one bag and Diana's going to be going to get, the other bag where he hid it. And he was like, well, how are we supposed to know, where it's at? And he was like, oh, that's easy. The same place y'all stole it from. That was so freaking funny. He was like, the same place y'all stole it from. And Drew was basically like, and about to apologize. And he was like, man, listen, I ain't even worried about it. It is what it is. We got to do this. And so then Everett texts Drew that it's an emergency. He need to talk to him. He tells him he'll see him tonight. And, in the meantime, when they go and bring the bag to where Lorenzo and Diana is, it's some guys that's watching that's like, yeah, boss, I think they up to something. So they should know already. He was going to have, some people watching. Then they basically, Officer Stalker calls Zeke back in, and he's showing him Monet on a damn camera that they done caught with her coming through around Carrie Place, or not too far from Carrie's place at a certain time. And he's basically saying, oh, I had called her to pick me up, and then I had changed my mind and decided to go to, Carrie's house, and then that's when I found her. And I'm like, Lord, Zeke, 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 Zeke. Okay. And so when they meet up at the spot, Kane is actually all shaking and looking, to kill his father. And then Tariq tells him, put it down. You ain't killing your father. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're not here to kill your father. And basically at the same time, the guys see that that's not really Mecca's bag. And then Kane is like, Monet knew this. She lied to me. And then he's like, yeah, we just had to make it look that way. And, use it as a deviation. And so then, basically they start having a shootout. They get all of Mecca's guys. And then Tariq steps to Lorenzo about stealing his drugs, and Lorenzo talking about you had it coming. And so they was like, well, where's Drew? And Kane is basically like, I think I know where he is, so I'll go get him. And he was telling Tariq to come with him, but Tariq was like, I gotta go pick up Diana. And he was like, wait, Diana's in on this too? So it's funny because Kane still ain't know everything that was damn going on. And so Mecca basically calls, and he's telling the one of the, I guess, the officers, whoever he's an informant for, that he's been compromised. At the same time, Everett meets up with Drew, and he's asking about the whole ID situation. And of course, Drew is like, that's what you call me here for? And he's like, yeah, that's not nothing to play with. But then he says he has a practice to go to, and Drew just basically ends up being like, be safe and have a good game or whatever, and he's walking away from him. So at the same time, freaking Drew was about to go ahead and get in the car, Carlito, I knew this was going to come back too, because my thing is, if somebody could turn on somebody that they were supposed to be so close with and working with that easy, of course they could turn on you. I mean, that's just common sense. So he's asking him what he's doing here. He first was coming up to Drew like if he was about to give him a pound. Next thing you know, he started beating the mess out of Drew, and they fighting and getting into whatever. And I have to say, Mr. Kane came through, okay? For once, he made himself useful. He got in there, and they was both fighting. And at one point, the guy was about to try to hurry up and grab the gun and shoot Drew. And freaking Kane came and kicked his head like that shit was a football he was trying to kick across the field. I said, you better go, Kane. That's what I'm talking about, all right? And so then, we had Lorenzo coming home, and she talking about everybody thinks she a snitch and this and that, and saying, oh, daddy, let me go make you a sandwich. But then, of course, even though Tariq told her not to look in the bag, Drew told her not to look in the bag, what y'all think Miss Diana did? Looked in the damn bag. And so she telling Poppy, oh, Poppy, it was papers and it was money, not just for Monet and Zeke, but with all of our names on it. What difference do that make at this point? Y'all beat all the guys. Y'all took what y'all needed to take. And Monet has already told you she was going to kill this damn man. But here go Poppy. He's like, oh, wait here. I'll be right back. And he leaves, okay? So Tariq comes with the damn bag to Mecca house. And he's basically ringing the bell to come up. Mecca lets him up. He says, right on time, Tariq. Here go damn Monet while freaking Tariq is on his way up, pulling the gun out on Mecca, even though she made a promise to damn Tariq that she wasn't going to do nothing till he got his damn money, okay? And, he going back and forth, oh, you can't do this. Zeke is never going to forgive you for killing the father. It seemed like at one minute she was kind of thinking about it, but then she's like, nah, Zeke could get over it, and she basically pops him in the head. So I already knew that, like I said, Monet was the most reasonable person to do it. I'm glad that it was her if it was going to be anybody, but I still was like, seriously, y'all basically, just still messed up the damn plan. And so he was trying to tell her that they was perfect together and all this other stuff. And of course, at the same time that's happening, Tariq comes out the damn elevator. He's looking like, yo, what happened? She talking about she didn't have no choice. She had to do it. And then he's like, we got to wipe these damn cameras down. And, basically he's like, damn, now I can't get the damn money from him. So I'm still going to have to be in this anyway. So then, Lorenzo's at the hangar at the same time. He sees the person pull up in the car. It's like, why? Why? They told you that she was going to be with him at his damn penthouse or whatever, and that he would not be able to sneak up on him. Why do you think he would just be walking randomly by himself in the hangar, Lorenzo? Why? Anyway, it's Zeke getting out the car that freaking Mecca gave him, deciding to get on the plane to go. have his hoodie on so Lorenzo can't really see who it is. His ass just firing on back. Oh, it's a person and they walking by themselves. Oh, bye, Mecca. And he's shooting on back. And basically Zeke is down. And then he go look at the car, whatever he leaves. So, Monet, basically goes home. And then they show that the agent that Mecca was calling was Dan Rodriguez ass. She's there and she's basically like, oh man, you didn't call me soon enough or whatever the case may be. And another detective comes over and hands her this only still shot that she have that she says it looks a little graded. And basically she sees that it's Tariq and she's like, Tariq St. Patrick, however the hell she be talking. I was just like, really? So now Tariq gonna be in more shit for season 3. Okay, surprise, surprise, surprise. And then Davis goes to see his brother. He says, don't worry about it. Hang in there. Sax is still working on the situation. And basically his brother tells him, he went to the doctor's not good. He don't have that much time. In the meantime, we see Sax laid up with his girl in the bed. And he's basically saying he's going to do everything he can to bring down freaking Tariq and Kane. He don't care what it takes, and he'll give her information on Davis and all this other stuff. And she's like, you would ruin your career and jeopardize, your license for me. And he's like, it's not even about that, it's about my life, but yes, I would do that for you. And I'm just like, Sax, I knew your ass couldn't be trusted from the get-go, I swear. But anyway, Satan, his brother, walk into this office. He's still mad at him. He's telling him he cost him his job. I'm like, damn, he cost him his job? So he was like, listen, showing him his new thing on the desk. He was like, you ain't even get in there yet and you already got that made. He's like, yeah. And he's telling him he could be head of security for him. Then you had Effie raggedy ass kissing Tariq outside of the school and him telling her that, oh, Stanfield got a program there you could go to. I'm like, whatever, bye, girl. You had Tasha and Yaz sitting down to eat and she gives him a letter that Tariq wrote her that's saying he can't be there with them right now, but he's going to do everything he can to, get all his shit straight and to basically be able to reconnect with them one day. Monet is sitting there at dinner. They all back together as a family. Everybody quiet. You know how people say you quiet when the food is good. It wasn't because it was good. It was just because it was awkward and none of them had shit to say to each other. Monet back to her freaking grilling ass face looking miserable. And she looking at the empty chair. She had asked them about, did anybody know where Zeke was at? She seen that Lorenzo wasn't there when she first got there and was asking for his ass. And so next thing you know, the phone is ringing. She go over to the phone and Detective Stalker is telling her he's dead. And of course, this is the first time that Monet actually acknowledges Zeke as her child. She's like, oh yes, this is his mother. And even Detective Stalker kind of was like, huh? Because he basically was like, is this the guardian? Because she's supposed to have been his aunt all this time. So nonetheless, y'all, that is how it ended. So we had Lauren dead. We had Mecca dead, which we knew that was going to happen. And we had Zeke dead. And the only ones I feel bad for is Zeke and Lauren. They didn't deserve this, okay? They didn't. They were innocent. And so y'all in y'all mess, no matter how Monet so-called was trying to protect Zeke and showed him from everything that the family was into and blah, 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 it still backfired and it still ended up costing him his life. He still ended up getting caught in the middle of, all the drama, and he still ended up being a casualty. And that was basically how the episode ended, y'all. A damn shame. Poor Zeke. R.I.P. Zeke. You deserved better. You deserved better. So anyway, y'all, that's all I got. This damn video is already longer than I really wanted it to be. But tell me how y'all felt about this episode. Did y'all see all of that coming? Was y'all expecting it to go down that way? Put it all in the comments. Let me know. That's all, y'all. Oh, I'm so hurt for poor Zeke. I really am. Poor Zeke. Tell me what y'all thought about it. Like, share, subscribe. Alright, till next time. Toodaloo.